The victory at Badr sent shockwaves through Arabia. Muhammad and his followers had not only survived, but defeated the powerful Quraysh, proving themselves as more than just a persecuted sect. They were now a rising military force, and their enemies in Mecca could not allow this challenge to go unanswered. The Quraysh, humiliated by their defeat, swore revenge. They began assembling a much larger army, determined to crush Muhammad and his followers once and for all. The coming battle would test not only Muhammad's leadership, but the resolve of his entire community. A year after Badr, in 625 AD, the Quraysh gathered an army of 3,000 warriors, heavily armed and prepared for war. Led by Abu Sufyan, their goal was clear: march to Medina and exact retribution. They were not simply looking to win. They wanted to send a message that no one could challenge their power and live. They carried the scars of their defeat at Badr, and they were determined that this time there would be no mistakes. Their army included 200 cavalry and 700 armored men, making it one of the most formidable forces the Arabian Peninsula had seen. They also brought along women from their tribes to watch the battle, ensuring that their warriors would be too ashamed to flee in the face of combat. Muhammad, upon hearing of the Quraysh's approach, gathered his advisors to discuss the strategy. Some argued that they should stay within Medina and fight defensively, using the city's fortifications to their advantage. This plan had merit. It would force the Quraysh into a siege, prolonging the battle and wearing down the enemy. However, younger warriors, eager for glory, pushed for an open battle. They reminded Muhammad that they had won a decisive victory at Badr in open combat. Muhammad ultimately decided to meet the enemy outside the city, at the foot of Mount Uhud, a decision that would shape the course of history. With an army of approximately 700 fighters, Muhammad led his forces to Uhud. Though vastly outnumbered, he positioned his men carefully. He placed 50 archers on a strategic hill, instructing them to hold their ground no matter what happened in the battle. Their role was crucial, to prevent the enemy from attacking from behind. This strategy was sound, and if followed, could turn the tide of the battle despite the overwhelming numbers of the Quraysh. Muhammad himself wore 2 suits of armor, preparing for the worst. As the battle began, the Muslim forces initially gained the upper hand. Muhammad's fighters, motivated by faith and the memory of their victory at Badr, pushed the Quraysh back. The battle turned in their favor as Quraysh fighters began to fall, and soon it looked as if victory was near. The Quraysh began retreating, and seeing this, many of the Muslim warriors assumed the battle was won. However, in that moment of triumph, a critical mistake was made. The archers, despite Muhammad's strict orders, abandoned their positions, eager to join in the spoils of war. They rushed down from the hill to claim victory, leaving the strategic position unguarded. This was the moment that Khalid ibn al-Walid, a brilliant Quraysh commander, had been waiting for. With the archers gone, he led a cavalry charge around the mountain, flanking the Muslim army and attacking them from behind. The advantage that Muhammad's forces had gained was now lost in an instant. The battlefield turned into chaos. The momentum shifted instantly. The Muslims, caught off guard, were now trapped between 2 forces. Many fell, and confusion spread. Panic set in as fighters who had moments ago thought they had won were now running for their lives. The Quraysh forces, fueled by vengeance, slaughtered their enemies without mercy. The situation became even worse when a Quraysh soldier struck Muhammad with a rock, knocking him to the ground. Another attacker slashed at him, breaking his helmet and driving metal into his cheek, causing blood to pour down. Rumors spread that he had been killed, further demoralizing his troops. However, Muhammad was not dead. Gathering his closest companions, he retreated to higher ground, rallying his forces to hold their position. Slowly, his men began to regroup. Though the Quraysh had struck a devastating blow, they could not completely destroy Muhammad's forces. With no way to break the final defensive position, Abu Sufyan ordered his army to withdraw, declaring victory. Yet, despite their success on the battlefield, they had failed to eliminate Muhammad or take Medina. The battlefield was a scene of devastation. 70 of Muhammad's fighters had been killed, including his beloved uncle Hamza, who was slain by a Quraysh warrior and mutilated in revenge for Badr. His death was a severe emotional loss for Muhammad, as Hamza had been one of his strongest warriors and most loyal supporters. The Quraysh left the battlefield feeling avenged, but their failure to follow up on their victory meant that the war with Muhammad was far from over. The loss at Uhud was not just about military defeat. It was a lesson in discipline, in following orders, and in understanding that wars are not won by strength alone, but by strategy and unity. The loss at Uhud taught Muhammad and his followers a harsh reality, that victory could be taken away in an instant if vigilance was lost. It was also a lesson in patience. Rather than attempting an immediate counterattack, Muhammad withdrew his forces and strengthened his support in Medina, preparing for the next phase of the struggle. In the weeks following Uhud, Muhammad and his followers buried their dead, mourned their losses, and prepared for the next confrontation. The Quraysh, though victorious, did not march on Medina. Their army had suffered casualties as well, and they were not prepared for a prolonged siege. Instead, they returned to Mecca, knowing that this war was far from over. The failure to destroy Muhammad's forces meant that he would rise again, stronger and more determined. Despite the setback, Muhammad and his followers did not lose hope. The war with the Quraysh was far from over, and in the coming years, battles and negotiations alike would determine the fate of the Arabian Peninsula. The loss at Uhud was painful, but it was not the end. In the years that followed, both military battles and diplomatic efforts played a crucial role in shaping the fate of the Arabian Peninsula. The Muslims reorganized their forces, strengthened their defenses, and built new alliances to counter future threats. The lessons from Uhud reinforced the importance of unity, discipline, and strategic planning as they prepared for the challenges ahead. Though Uhud was a temporary setback, it did not break the resolve of Muhammad and his followers. Instead, it strengthened their commitment, ensuring that they would be ready for whatever came next in their struggle against the Quraysh. In the next episode, the conflict escalates as Muhammad and the Quraysh prepare for the next phase of war. The Battle of the Trench will test not just military might, but the power of strategy and resilience. Faced with an overwhelming force, Muhammad would use ingenuity rather than brute strength to ensure his people's survival in the most desperate of circumstances.